Hi everyone, Vanman here. In the previous video, we did a remastering of one of my oldest runs in the form of Ponyta, who once again earned a spot in the C tier for Pokemon Solo Challenges in Gen 1. And today, we're going to follow that up by testing how fast we can beat Pokemon Red and Blue with the sand-attacking devil himself, Sandshrew. And as far as stats are concerned, for a first stage Pokemon, Sandshrew has reasonable attack and excellent defense. But that special stat of only 30 really leaves much to be desired. And even though Sandshrew is a physical attacker, meaning that its poor special isn't really a hindrance on that front, the fact that special was both an offensive and defensive stat in Gen 1 means that in some matchups, Sandshrew will be able to take hits very well, and in other matchups will fall down like a house of cards. However, Sandshrew does get access to quite a powerful move pool that will be able to take care of most of the opponents as long as we're at a reasonable level. So, will Sandshrew's various strengths be able to make up for its glaring weaknesses? Let's find out. As always, the full rule set for this challenge is in the description below, but in summary, I can only use Sandshrew in battle with no battle items, I can't use any glitches or RNG manipulation, I must save before boss battles and then reset if I lose, and finally, Sandshrew's tier ranking will be determined by its real-world time spent completing the game while playing at 4 times speed. As a challenge for the viewer, everyone comment down below your prediction for how you think this run will go, then after the video is over, come back and edit your comment to describe how accurate your prediction was. And also in addition to commenting, be sure to give the video a like, and subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss another installment, and feel free to become a patron on Patreon. Thank you so much for your support. To begin the run, we must first alter the game to replace the Squirtle starter with Sandshrew, causing the rival to choose Bulbasaur. To kick off the first battle against the rival, although Sandshrew's only starting move is the measly Scratch, Sandshrew's excellent defense still allows us to tank the Bulbasaur's tackles to get the decisive victory in green health. But now to prepare for our face-off against Brock, you might naively think that Sandshrew would have an easy time with him, considering Sandshrew's ground typing being super effective against his rock typing. But it turns out that Sandshrew doesn't learn any ground type moves by level up, and obviously Scratch is not going to be enough to get the job done on its own. However, we do have another ace up our sleeve. That's right, the most annoying move in all of Gen 1, Sand Attack, which lowers the target's accuracy by 1 stage, and which Sandshrew learns at level 10. And against Brock, we can use Sand Attack to hopefully prevent his team from damaging us just enough to come out on top. But as we spend about 5 minutes training up to level 10 and then face Brock for the first time, it's immediately clear why that plan is not going to work. Because after we lower Geodude's accuracy as far as it will go with the full 6 Sand Attacks, each of our Scratches is only dealing a single HP per attack. And considering that Geodude has around 30 HP, and Scratch only has 35 power points, that means we're guaranteed to run out of power points against the Onix, against whom we'll have to resort to struggle to take it down. But the problem with that is that even if we could guarantee that neither Geodude nor Onix would ever damage us even a single time, we still don't have enough HP to survive the struggle recoil damage, making the battle impossible to win at our current level. So it looks like it's time to head to Viridian Forest to train up to a higher level, and during that training session we also head down to defeat the optional rival 1A for extra experience. But the ultimate irony is that in this battle we got a taste of our own medicine. Really, come on. Are you serious? 4 sand attacks? 5 sand attacks. 6 sand attacks! Are you kidding me right now? Just land, please. Okay. Now come on. Sandshrew's defense is really good, so it's like I'm not in danger of dying, but... Leaf Seed? Really? Are you kidding me right now? Okay, well we're not fighting the rival. That is definitely not worth it. So then, after Sandshrew got sand attacked into oblivion himself, we head back north to continue to train until level 15, which will hopefully allow us to deal more than 1 HP of damage with Scratch, and also be able to survive the struggle recoil if it comes to that. However, unfortunately even now Scratch is not dealing any more damage to Geodude than last time, and especially considering that Geodude did manage to power through the sand attack and hit us with Tackle a couple times, I don't even bother attempting the Onix with only orange health remaining and we just reset. But fortunately, we only have 2 more levels to go before reaching level 17 when we learn the move Slash, which not only has double the base power of Scratch, but also has an increased critical hit ratio, allowing us to land a critical hit approximately 2/3 of the time. And as you can see in this battle, since critical hits in Gen 1 bypass all stat modifications, our critical hit slashes completely ignore the Geodude's defense curls and inflict massive damage, allowing us to make it to the Onix in the green. And then against Onix, we open by spamming Sand Attack, after which Onix only hits us with a single tackle, before Slash eventually takes it out and wins us the Boulder Badge. And now because we're so so overleveled, Slash's base power of 70 and critical hit power of 140 allows us to one-shot everything in our path from Route 3 to Mount Moon leading to Cerulean City, at which point we're obviously not ready to contend with Misty's super effective water-type attacks, so instead we take on the rival, who is a complete joke because Slash two-shots to Pidgeotto after it gets off a quick attack into Gust, one-shots Abra, one-shots Rattata, and comes just shy of one-shotting Bulbasaur, who just growls before going down in the next turn. And realistically, yes, it is possible that we could have lost that fight if Pidgeotto managed to get off a long series of sand attacks of its own, but even then, Sandshrew's defense is so good that I think we still would have been okay in that scenario. Then, after Slash makes quick work of the Nugget Bridge trainers leading to Bill's house, we defeat the Rocket trainer at the exit point of Cerulean City, who gifts us with the TM for Sandshrew's first ground-type move in the form of Dig, which is an incredibly powerful move for this early in the game, since it has both 100 power and 100 accuracy, and in Sandshrew's case gets the same type attack bonus to boost its power all the way to 150. Then, since I want to delay the Misty fight as long as possible, we go ahead and leave Cerulean City and make our way to the SSN. And unlike with most Pokemon, we actually don't bother picking up the TM for Body Slam because most of the time Slash will deal more damage anyway. Then against Rival 3, since Pidgeotto is immune to ground-type attacks, we can't use Dig and have to take it out with Slash. And then, thanks to Dig's enormous base power, we use Dig to one-shot the rest of the team. And now, as much as we would like to take on Lieutenant Surge, the Vermilion Gym is walled off behind a Cut Tree, and Misty's Cascade Badge is required for using Cut outside of battle. So we dig back to Cerulean City and take on her first. Well, to start, even despite Sandshrew's poor speed stat, the fact that we're a full 8 points overleveled means that we outspeed the Staryu and one-shot it with Dig. Starmie, however, outspeeds and deals massive damage with a super effective Bubble Beam, and then Dig takes it down to yellow health. Then, although Starmie could knock us out on the next turn, Misty just goes for X-Defend, allowing us to take out the Starmie with one final slash, winning us the Cascade Badge. Talk about a close call. Then, after defeating Misty, Slash and Dig allow us to steamroll our way through Route 9 and Rock Tunnel leading to Celadon City, and upon arriving in Celadon City, in addition to our usual shopping errands, we also buy a soda pop to give to this girl in exchange for the TM for Rock Slide, which is a fantastic addition to Sandshrew's arsenal, considering that flying-type Pokemon are immune to Sandshrew's ground-type attacks, so Rock Slide is a great way to get around that. Then after completing the shopping errands, we pick up the HM for Fly, and then I make the same mistake that I always make in runs where I skip the Lieutenant Surge fight, which is that I attempt to use Fly, having forgotten that Surge's Thunder Badge is required for using Fly outside of battle. So before doing anything else, we cut through Saffron City back to Vermilion City, and then quite obviously one-shot all of Surge's team, and to save time, we don't even bother using Dig on Voltorb or Pikachu, considering their defense is so low that Slash will be plenty, after which Raichu goes down to Dig to win us the Thunder Badge. And so now that we can use Fly outside of battle, we would ordinarily fly back to Lavender Town to face Rival 4. However, on Rival 4's team is the first post-Brock Pokemon that will be a real gatekeeper for Sandshrew, Gyarados, who will inevitably outspeed and one-shot with Hydro Pump unless we're at an extremely high level. So prior to attempting the rival, we head over to the Celadon Gym to train against the gym trainers and level up to level 33. Then as we head to Lavender Town to face the rival, whether we have a chance at this fight will depend entirely on whether we can outspeed and one-shot the Gyarados using the super effective Rock Slide. And if we don't outspeed or one-shot, survive the Gyarados' Hydro Pump in the meantime. Well, let's turn over to my live reaction to see how that goes. Alright, can we dodge Hydro Pump? Rock Slide. Good. Rock Slide. Yes! Got it! Easy GG. Oh, rival was easy. So in this case, Sandshrew was overleveled enough to dodge that bullet by one-shotting the entire team without taking a single point of damage along the way. So at least for now, it looks like that extra little bit of training in Celadon paid off. Then, as we scale the tower to get the Pokeflute, we go ahead and use our super effective Dig to train up even more against the Channelers. Then, after completing the Lavender Tower mission, we pick up all the precious vitamins from Safari Zone and Silphco, where we also grab the TM for Swords Dance, an extremely useful stat move that boosts the user's attack by 2 stages, plus the TM for Earthquake, which in Gen 1 is the equivalent of the second turn of Dig. Then up next, we head back to Fuchsia City to knock out all the gym trainers in the Fuchsia Gym, then face Koga. And in this battle is where Sandshrew's high attack and super effective typing really shine, because although Sandshrew is slow, so is Coughing, allowing us to outspeed and one-shot it with Earthquake, and then the same for Muck followed by the next Coughing. And then, although we don't outspeed the Wheezing, it takes itself out with a Self Destruct on the first turn, and thanks to our excellent defense, we survive the attack and earn the Soul Badge. And what's more, now that we have the Soul Badge, that will allow us to abuse a particular feature of the Gen 1 games, which is that every odd-numbered badge provides a passive 12.5% boost to a particular stat. But since it's Gen 1 we're talking about here, that's not the whole story, because in Gen 1 only only, every time your stats are modified in battle, whether from an opponent's move or yours, every badge boost that applies to you so far is applied again. And since Koga's Soul Badge offers the badge boost for speed, this functionally means that we can use Swords Dance not only to drastically buff up our attack as it was intended, but also badge boost our speed to hopefully outspeed and one-shot any Pokemon that would otherwise have been a huge problem. So now, let's head to Rival 5 to test that hypothesis and see just how well Swords Dance can carry us through the battle. Alright, Swords Dance. I think one Swords Dance should do it. Rock Slide. Rock Slide. Yes. Okay, good. One Swords Dance was enough. Okay, so now we're not going to outspeed the Alakazam. But we should still one-shot it with the Swords Dance. Good. Beautiful, look at that. That was a beautiful Rival 5 fight. Wow, we avoided the sand attack and then one-shot everything. And in case you were wondering, the reason we didn't outspeed the Alakazam just now is because badge boosts go away if you level up mid-battle. But in that case, the Alakazam just used a turn 1 disable, so it all worked out in the end. But now, after we defeat the rival, we talk to this man who gives us a Lapras, a Pokemon who can use Surf to make our way down to Cinnabar Island, where we make a pit stop at the Pokemon Mansion to pick up even more vitamins to boost our stats. Then we grab the secret key to access the Cinnabar Gym, where we use our type advantage to one-shot all the gym trainers for yet more experience, and then face Blaine. And in this battle, all we have to do is set up Swords Dance against the initial Growlithe, who only does a little bit of damage in the meantime, and I think you all know what's coming next. Earthquake one-shots Growlithe, then one-shots Ponyta, then one-shots Rapidash, then one-shots Arcanine, winning us the Volcano Badge and what is probably the surest victory in the entire run. Then after we defeat Blaine, we head back to the Celadon Gym to face Erica, and given that we're now a full 18 points over leveled, that allows us to outspeed and one-shot Victory Bell. Then since Tangela has excellent defense and also resists Earthquake, it survives in the yellow and then retaliates with a bind that deals all of 2 damage. Then it goes down on the next turn, after which we one-shot Vileplume as well, winning us the Rainbow Badge. And now that we've earned 6 of the 8 gym badges in the Pokemon League, we have nowhere else to go besides to the Saffron Gym to face Sabrina. So after we use our superior level and type advantage to make quick work of the gym trainers here, let's see how we fare against Sabrina. To start, we open with a Swords Dance, but not before Kadabra brings us all the way down to red health with a critical hit Psychic. So now in order to win, that one Swords Dance has to be enough to outspeed the rest of the team. Well, thankfully it does allow us to outspeed Kadabra and one-shot it with Earthquake, then the same for Mr. Mime and Venomoth, but then the worst happens and we level up going into Alakazam, taking away our badge boost. So then of course Alakazam outspeeds, but instead of knocking us out, it just goes for a full health recover, meaning that one final Earthquake knocks it out on the next turn for a super clutch victory, winning us the Marsh Badge. Then finally, as we head to Viridian City and enter the final gym of the Kanto region, we once again use our type advantage to very quickly knock out all the gym trainers, and then against Giovanni, all we have to do is rely on Sandshrew's high defense stat to withstand the opening Rhyhorn's attacks while we set up the maximum possible Swords Dance. Then, you guessed it, outspeed and one-shot the entire team, winning us the Earth Badge. Then as we head to face Rival 6, our strategy in this battle is exactly the same as it was against Rival 5, except this time the opening Pidgeot no longer knows Sand Attack, giving us free reign to set up the full 3 Swords Dance as opposed to just the one like we did before. So in the battle, after the setup is complete, we begin the sweep allowing us to one-shot Pidgeot, Rhyhorn, Gyarados, and Growlithe. But then just like last time, we level up against Alakazam to negate our badge boost, and also just like last time, it outspeeds but doesn't deal any damage thanks to Recover, then goes down in the next turn. However, unlike last time, we don't outspeed the Venusaur, allowing it to knock us out with a critical hit Razor Leaf. So because of that, I go ahead and feed Sandshrew one single rare candy to prevent the mid-battle level up, and of course that then allows us to sweep the team no problem. But now, as well as Sandshrew has performed in the run so far with the exception of the Brock split, up next are one of 2 battles that represent exactly why I decided to do so much extra training before reaching this point, because every one of Lorelei's Pokemon have super effective attacks against Sandshrew, which, unless we're very careful, Sandshrew will not be able to tank that well because of its poor special stat. But thankfully, we do have a plan. Remember that ace up our sleeve that I mentioned all the way at the beginning of the run? Well, even though Brock wasn't fazed by such a cheap trick, I think against Lorelei, Sand Attack, which we've kept on hand all this time for this very reason, will be just what we need to get past her, because our strategy is to max out Sand Attack against Dugong to prevent it from knocking us out while we set up Swords Dance. Then use the super effective Rock Slide to outspeed and one-shot the team, because we all know that Sandshrew will not be able to make it past Lorelei if we allow her to get in any attacks of her own. However, a potential pitfall of that plan is that it will only work if we either outspeed Lorelei's opening Dugong, or if we're able to survive one of Dugong's Aurora Beams, or preferably both. So, let's head into Lorelei's chamber and see if we can pull it off. So luckily, it turns out that our prospects for pulling off this strategy are greater than we might have thought, because we both outspeed Dugong and can tank exactly one Aurora Beam in the case that it manages to power through the sand attack a single time. So using this method, we attempted this battle a total of 8 times, all the while Dugong continued to power through the sand attack and knock us out with Aurora Beam. But eventually on attempt number 9, we get a run in which Dugong doesn't land its Aurora Beam a single time, meaning we can now set up with Swords Dance, and we begin the sweep. So we use Rock Slide on Dugong and it goes down. Then although Cloyster has the highest defense stat in the game, our now souped up attack stat and our super effective typing is still no match for it, and Cloyster goes down, followed by Slowbro and then Jinx. But then we level up against Lapras to negate our badge boost, and now we're against the ropes because Sandshrew absolutely will not survive a Hydro Pump. But fortunately Lapras' stats are all fantastic except for its speed, meaning we can still outspeed the Lapras and take it out with one final Rock Slide for the win. Then I don't think it should come as any surprise that Swords Dance and Earthquake make quick work of Bruno, after which we move on to Agatha. And to prepare for this fight, I considered feeding all of our remaining rare candies to Sandshrew, considering how challenging the Agatha battle is for most Pokemon, but in Sandshrew's case, I actually deemed it correct to hold off for now, just because Earthquake will one-shot the team even at our current level, and the higher level would still not allow us to outspeed her Gengars. So all we can do is cross our fingers that Agatha will not be too disruptive with either Sleep or Confusion. So to start, Gengar opens with a useless Dream Eater while we're awake, then goes down to a single Earthquake. Then against Golbat we go for Rock Slide, but then Agatha switches out to Haunter, and Rock Slide deals just over half. Then Haunter, just like Gengar, also goes for the useless Dream Eater, and then Earthquake knocks it out on the next turn. Then, even though Golbat does confuse us and we hit ourselves in confusion a couple times, 2 Rock Slides are still enough to knock out the Golbat, and then Arbok uses Bite before being one-shot with Earthquake. Then finally, the second Gengar uses Toxic before also being one-shot. But now we move on to Lance. And here, I'll turn it over to Past Vanman to explain our strategy going into this fight.
Okay, now we rare candy. Oh man, I hope these rare candies are enough. We're not gonna outspeed the Gyarados. It's just a matter of surviving the Hydro Pump. Or resetting until the Hydro Pump misses. Okay. Rock Slide. Can we one-shot? We outspeed the Gyarados! Oh, but we don't one-shot it. Okay, critical hit. Good to know. I am agnostic as to whether we would survive a non-critical hit Hydro Pump. God, Gyarados has such good defense, like we're 10 points over leveled. And it's super effective and Rock Slide still didn't KO it. Okay, so we can't survive a Hydro Pump, so we're just gonna have to reset until Hydro Pump misses. Because it will always use Hydro Pump, because of the good AI. And it's not a range either. Okay, so as soon as Hydro Pump hits, we reset. That's literally our only path to victory. And then we can Swords Dance against the Dragonair. Or no, I guess we could also reset until we get the critical hit on the Rock Slide. So we're resetting for a crit or a miss.
So fortunately, it turns out that I was wrong that we wouldn't outspeed the Gyarados, which is excellent news. And by the way, what I meant earlier by good AI is that Lance's Pokemon are programmed to always use moves that are super effective against the opponent if one exists, which in this case means that Gyarados will always use Hydro Pump. But fortunately, Hydro Pump is only 80% accurate, so initially our plan was to keep resetting until Hydro Pump missed, and then knock out the Gyarados with either 2 Rock Slides or 1 critical hit Rock Slide, then set up Swords Dance against Dragonair. And indeed, we attempted this battle a total of 6 times, before someone in my Twitch chat thought of a different strategy, which is, given that we outspeed, open with a single Swords Dance to badge boost our special stat to survive the Hydro Pump, and also buff up our attack stat to one-shot the Gyarados with Rock Slide. So, does that strategy pan out? Let's see. Well, to start, we open with Swords Dance, then Gyarados goes for Hydro Pump, and we survive on a mere 6 health. Incredible. And not only that, but Swords Dance is indeed enough to outspeed and one-shot both the Gyarados and the Dragonairs. Then Aerodactyl's speed is so massive that we still don't outspeed it, but fortunately it just goes for a failed Supersonic, after which Rock Slide takes care of Aerodactyl and Dragonite, meaning we can finally move on to the champion. And because our strategy here is exactly the same as it was for Rival 6, and because we saved one final rare candy specifically to prevent the mid-battle level up like last time, my speculation is that we should be able to finish this run with a decisive victory. And indeed, Pidgeot only brings us to about 2/3 health during the Swords Dance setup, then Pidgeot goes down to Rock Slide, Alakazam goes down to Earthquake, Rhydon goes down to Earthquake, Gyarados goes down to Rock Slide, Arcanine goes down to Earthquake, and then finally Venusaur goes down to Earthquake as well, making us champion of the Pokemon League. Results. Sandshrew finished the game in 5 hours and 32 minutes game time, 1 hour, 28 minutes, and 55 seconds real time. Conclusion: Sandshrew has access to several of the most hard-hitting physical moves in the game, as well as access to one of the most powerful setup moves in the form of Swords Dance. And because of that, Sandshrew was able to breeze past almost the entire game, with 3 principal exceptions in the form of Brock's Geodude and Onix, Lorelei's Dewgong, and Lance's Gyarados. And even in the case of Lorelei and Lance, the only reason they were so threatening is because Dewgong and Gyarados led their teams, thus preventing the Swords Dance setup. If Lorelei had led with Slowbro, for example, or if Lance had led with Dragonair, then Sandshrew would have been able to set up and sweep their teams much more easily. But as it stands, Sandshrew is forced to level up to a ridiculously high level to stand a chance in those handful of fights, thus costing loads of time in spite of Sandshrew's sheer dominance over the entire rest of the game. A solemn reminder that oftentimes the Pokemon that rank lower on the tier list are not always the ones that struggle with the entire playthrough, but rather the ones that get hung up on key roadblocks. However, before we get into Sandshrew's tier ranking, there's something else that we need to talk about, and that is, I know what many of you are thinking about the strategy that I used for completing this run, which is that I wasted too much time by overleveling, and that it would have been much faster to gain experience against all the optional trainers much less than I did. So, let's address that with a second playthrough, because in this case, I want to take this opportunity to prove a point, which is that in first attempt solo runs, it is very often more profitable to train preemptively in anticipation of particularly difficult hurdles, especially those in the Elite Four, since losing to them requires you to start all over again, than it is to play through the entire game with as few battles as possible, then reach the hurdle, then either reset the battle over and over again until you get perfect luck, or realize that the hurdle is insurmountable and have to backtrack to level up regardless. So in this second playthrough, we'll instead be leveling up against optional trainers much less than we did before, and we'll see how much that improves our time, if any. And speaking of leveling up, this time I apply what I learned from the previous run, and we don't even attempt Brock until level 17 when we learn Slash. Then the next portion of the game leading up to Celadon City goes exactly the same as it did last time, but now since I've decided not to train in the Celadon Gym, this time we skip that portion of the run, and instead we head immediately over to Lavender Tower to face Rival 4. And here is where our lower level really comes back to bite us, because although we outspeed and one-shot the opening Pidgeot with Rock Slide, Gyarados still outspeeds us, and even though its first Hydro Pump misses, our Rock Slide leaves it hanging on the red, after which the next Hydro Pump knocks us out. Then we attempt the battle a couple more times hoping for better luck, but in reality that's more luck than we can reasonably ask for, because defeating the Gyarados would require either 2 successive Hydro Pump misses, or a single Hydro Pump miss followed by a critical hit Rock Slide. So because of that, and because I was still committed to training as little as possible, we instead use a few rare candies to level up to 34, at which point the battle goes much more smoothly and we're able to one-shot the entire team. Then after we scale the tower, only fighting the minimum possible number of trainers, we head over to the Fuchsia Gym to face Koga, and despite our lower level, we get exactly the same results as before, with us one-shotting the team except for Weezing, who promptly self-destructs, which we survive. But then up next is Rival 5, and here we again run into a bit of trouble just like with Rival 4, because against the initial Pidgeot, we set up a single Swords Dance and it goes down to a Rock Slide no problem, but then the Gyarados hangs on by a thread from a critical hit Rock Slide, after which its retaliatory Hydro Pump is obviously plenty to knock us out. Then in the next attempt, Pidgeot manages a Sand Attack before going down, which by the way is why we only set up one Swords Dance and not more, so as to minimize Pidgeot's chances of doing that, after which we don't get a critical hit on the Gyarados this time, which means we knock it out. Then Growlithe is obviously outsped in one shot, but then unfortunately we level up going into Alakazam to negate our badge boost, meaning that it outspeeds and goes for Psybeam, but fortunately it doesn't knock us out. Then when we go for Earthquake, the Sand Attack from earlier causes us to miss, allowing Alakazam to knock us out with another Psybeam. Okay, so even though we didn't win that one, I think we can still get this as long as we dodge Sand Attack from Pidgeot. And indeed on the next attempt, Pidgeot doesn't use Sand Attack, allowing us to get past Pidgeot, Gyarados, Growlithe, and Alakazam, but then Venusaur still manages to outspeed and knock us out with Razor Leaf. So, with the knowledge now in hand that Venusaur will outspeed if we lose the badge boost, I feed Sandshrew one rare candy to prevent the mid-battle level up and we try again. Well, this time, the entire battle goes exactly the same way leading up to Venusaur, at which point this particular battle provides so much experience that we still level up in spite of the rare candy. But thankfully Venusaur just goes for Leech Seed instead of Razor Leaf, allowing Earthquake to knock it out on the next turn. Then after defeating the rival, we surf down to Cinnabar Island and use our type advantage to make quick work of Blaine, and then head to Saffron City to face Sabrina. And in the battle against Sabrina, I actually misclicked and selected Earthquake when I meant to click on Swords Dance. But to my surprise, at our level we actually outspeed Kadabra and knock it out. Then, because Mr. Mime's attacks are so weak, we have the green light to set up Swords Dance against it to outspeed and one-shot both Mr. Mime and Venomoth. But then, even in spite of the badge boost, we still don't outspeed the Alakazam. But fortunately it just recovers and then goes down to Earthquake in the next turn. Seriously though, Alakazam, you gotta work on that. Turn 1 recover at full health is not exactly the optimal battle strategy. But anyway, we then head to the Celadon Gym to make quick work of Erica, then to the Viridian Gym to make quick work of Giovanni, all the while battling the minimum number of trainers in the meantime. Then against Rival 6, the battle opens by going totally our way, but then an untimely level up against the Gyarados allows it to outspeed and knock us out with Hydro Pump. So just like in the previous Rival battle, we use a rare candy to prevent the level up, which allows us to outspeed and use Rock Slide against the Pidgeot, who survives on a sliver thanks to a critical hit before going down on the next turn. Then we outspeed and one-shot the Rhyhorn, Gyarados, and Growlithe. Then against Alakazam, its massive speed allows it to spite our badge boost and move first, but then it just uses Reflect instead of attacking. Then our massively buffed up attack allows us to power through the Reflect and one-shot it, after which we level up going into the Venusaur, thus negating our badge boost, but then Vine Whip from Venusaur still isn't quite enough to knock us out, and one final Earthquake gets the job done. And now at this point we're a full 11 minutes ahead of the previous run, but up next lie two of Sandshrew's greatest roadblocks that could potentially cost us so much time that we end up falling behind. So, will we be able to get past Lorelei and Lance at our level, or will they stop us in our tracks? Let's find out. Well, we start by going into Lorelei at the lowly level 49, which is not enough to outspeed the Dugong or survive its Aurora Beam. So because of that we use a rare candy. So, is level 50 enough to outspeed? No, but it is enough to survive one Aurora Beam. However, I'm still not satisfied with that because I really want to outspeed so that we can open with a preemptive Sand Attack. So, I feed one more rare candy. Is level 51 enough to outspeed? No, it's not. Is level 53 enough? Yes, it is, but Dugong still manages the knockout. And indeed, it took us a full 8 failed attempts of the Dugong knocking us out before attempt number 9 where we make it past the Dugong. But the Rock Slide misses on Cloyster, and Cloyster promptly knocks us out as well. However, on attempt number 10, Dugong does land a single Aurora Beam, but we're able to survive it while we set up Swords Dance and then sweep the team. Then up next, Bruno and Agatha go exactly as smoothly as they did last time, but then comes our arch nemesis in the form of Lance's Gyarados, the only Pokemon in the entire game that is simultaneously the first Pokemon in the enemy trainer's lineup and also knows the move Hydro Pump, thus drastically diminishing our ability to set up with Swords Dance. Additionally, because we were so committed to battling so few trainers during this run, that forced us to use most of our rare candies much sooner, meaning that now we only have one solitary rare candy left. So now our plan is to feed our final rare candy to level us up to 57, a full 11 levels lower than in our previous Lance battle, and then use a single Swords Dance followed by Rock Slide to one-shot the Gyarados, provided only that Hydro Pump misses. And now, since in these attempts I provided my analysis in real time, I'll turn it over to past Vanman to give his commentary.
Do we outspeed the Gyarados? Probably not. Alright, let's see, let's just... Okay. Yeah, see, this is what I'm talking about. We got 10 minutes to get past our previous time, and we're gonna have to get past this Gyarados to do that. Okay. So now we're basically just relying on Hydro Pump missing, right? Because, like, there's no setting up like we did last time. We don't outspeed the Gyarados. Like, we just have to keep resetting until Hydro Pump misses. That's literally the only thing we do. So if Hydro Pump hits, we reset and try again. Okay, there we go. Now, is one badge boost enough to outspeed? Yes, it is. Is it enough to one-shot? It's not, but Hydro Pump missed again. Okay, so now we can finish the Swords Dance setup.
So needless to say, that last attempt was exceptionally lucky because Gyarados missed its first Hydro Pump, allowing us to use a single Swords Dance, but then unfortunately that one Swords Dance was neither enough to outspeed the Gyarados on the next turn, nor enough to one-shot the Gyarados. But then yet another consecutive Hydro Pump miss came in clutch to allow us to get past the Gyarados, then set up 2 more Swords Dance, then sweep the team as planned. And now as we head into the champion battle, you might think that this fight would exactly resemble the previous run, but the 2 key differences here are that we're at such a low level that Alakazam still outspeeds in spite of our badge boost and gets off a side beam to bring us into yellow, and also that we now require so much less experience to get to the next level in comparison to the previous run that we now level up going into the Arcanine to negate our badge boost. And even though Arcanine doesn't deal any damage before going down, Venusaur's Razor Leaf is obviously enough to knock us out. So it looks like this run now comes down to just continuing to reset until Venusaur uses some other move besides Razor Leaf. And lucky for us, in only the second attempt Venusaur instead goes for Solar Beam, allowing one final Earthquake to knock it out during the charge up turn and make us champion of the Pokemon League. Results. This time around, Sandshrew finished the game in 4 hours and 50 minutes game time, 1 hour, 23 minutes, and 7 seconds real time. And now for our conclusion, I'll again let past Vanman take it away.
Alright, so look, here's the thing. This run was 6 minutes faster than the previous, okay? However, that's to be expected when the early game before Brock was so much smoother. So like, in the first run we had to experiment with how to get past Brock, And so in the second run, we obviously didn't have to do that experimentation, which saved us a good 4 to 5 minutes. And then, you know, chalk up another minute or two to just like executing the commands more cleanly during the run. Like, this run is not any better than the previous. Because here's the thing, think of it this way. If we had gone in with this strategy in the first attempt, then we would have gotten about 28 minutes like we did last time. Because we still would have had to experiment with how to get past Brock to waste about that 5 extra minutes. And we still would have had to reset a bunch to get to this spot. So given that this is the second attempt, I don't think that this run was any better. I think I proved my hypothesis.
And indeed, if hypothetically we replayed history from the Lance battle until the end of the game, it's extremely likely that that run would have taken even longer, because the odds of Gyarados missing 2 successive Hydro Pumps is only about 1 in 25, which means that any such run with fewer than 25 resets against Gyarados is luckier than average. So the fact that we got past Gyarados in as few as only 8 attempts means that this run was especially lucky. So, given just how lucky this run really was, and given that we saved several minutes in the Brock split between the first run and the second, simply from not needing to experiment with the optimal strategy against him, I hope I've proven that doing just a little bit of training to make the especially tough battles more consistent is not as much of a time sink as you might think, and can actually save time if done properly. So, where does that leave us for Sandshrew's tier ranking? Well, given that Sandshrew yawned at how easily it defeated very nearly every trainer in the game, with the exceptions of Brock, Lorelei, and Lance like I mentioned before, and given how much time we wasted either training in the first run, or resetting in the second run to overcome those obstacles, Sandshrew has earned its place in the high C tier for Pokemon Solo Challenges in Gen 1, just above Ponyta. Thank you all so much for joining along with me while playing Sandshrew, and for building up our awesome Pokemon community. You all are what inspire me to keep going, and I'm truly humbled by all of your support. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss another video, as well as follow the link in the description to become a patron on Patreon. See you next time, everyone. Take care.